Well, hey, everyone, this is Heidi St. John. Thanks for joining me today at my little corner of the internet. I'm glad that you're here at the intersection of faith and culture. You're in for a treat today because Ian Bultman is joining me. He is the founder of Brinkman Adventures, and we're going to talk a little bit today about why fighting for freedom is so important. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged.
Questions on any subject put to thee by the members of this court.
Nay, I cannot take this oath.
Thou canst not take the oath. Dost thou not know that I can throw thee into prison, command a lashing, or even torture?
Be what may, I shall not swear.
Silence!
Thy actions grieve the Lord. At which hour did the apostles ever hold court, try and imprison those among them with differing views? 'Tis only the Pharisees who did behave thus. Furthermore, thy authority, Archbishop, is also unbiblical, and this whole church court is illegal under English law.
Silence in the court!
Do what thou must do, but I shall not answer thy questions, and I shall not take the oath.
Wow. So, Ian Bultman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was a scene from a story that you produced on William Bradford, correct?
It is.
So you guys have been, we've known you for a long time out on the road. It's fun to see you here.
Good to see
at,
you.
At NRB. Wow. I mean, this is an electric environment. And you guys have a booth right across from us. And I've been watching you interacting with people for the last several days. Tell our listeners a little bit about why you started Brinkman Adventures, and then I want to get into the story of William Bradford.
Sure. My kids were being impacted by radio drama. I watched them listening to stories and wanting to be a paleontologist because they listened to Jonathan Park. And while I was on a sabbatical prayer time, the Lord impressed on me this idea to do a radio show that tells missionary stories, real missionary stories. So we had no idea what we were doing. Pat Roy from Jonathan Park flew to Milwaukee.
I love Pat Roy. He's a friend.
Pat came to Milwaukee. He showed us how to make radio drama. That was 13 years ago. And we're about 100 episodes in now.
Wow. And the scene that we just heard is from what?
It's a special that we released called Freedom, William Bradford and the American Pilgrims.
All right.
And the scene is, so the Pilgrims are in Scrooby, England, and they're meeting in a house church, basically, and King James didn't like that. The Bishop of York did not like that. And so they were starting to send spies and imprison people, and this scene is where one of the church members was imprisoned because they were going to this church. And the Bishop of York wanted them to take an oath that they would tell the truth, and basically the Fifth Amendment says that I choose to take the Fifth and remain silent. Well, they didn't allow that. You had to take an oath to say whatever they would ask you, and that would incriminate the rest of the people and say where they're hiding or meeting. And so this guy said, I won't take the oath. So that's what they were under. That's why the Pilgrims left England.
And they came here in search of a better life. They came here for, obviously, religious liberty. That was the first reason that they came.
That's right.
And we're watching now as those liberties are slowly being eroded, largely through our education system, right? We've got an entire generation of people coming out of our public schools who hate this country and don't understand the principles of freedom. Why is it so important that we educate our young people? I mean, it's a great idea. I love what you're doing because stories move people. And I love to tell homeschool moms, listen, if you can connect something that you're doing to a story, that's why Jesus taught in parables, right? That your kids will remember it.
That's right. Well, I was impacted as we were starting to research this. They went from England to the Netherlands. And when they were in the Netherlands, the culture started to lead the Pilgrim children astray, the separatists as they were called. And they started to serve in the Dutch army, and the culture was corrupting them, very similar to what we're experiencing today. And so even though they had freedom, religious freedom, they felt like they were losing their church and they're losing their kids. So that was one of the big reasons why they went from Holland to America, to maintain their church and maintain their community and not lose the kids. And so as we were studying this and finding this and reading these stories, I thought there's nothing new under the sun. And they experienced the same thing that we're experiencing today. And so this is why we spent so much time, and we did 13 episodes to tell the story of the Pilgrims, because they dealt with race relations, then they dealt with a crown that wanted their head because they were exercising the freedom of conscience. And they were losing their children, and they had a pandemic where half of them died. And so I found myself saying, America needs to hear this, because this is very relevant to where we are today now.
It is. It's funny. You're talking to me about the Pilgrims and why they came from Holland to America to really give their kids a better life. And I've done quite a bit of work with the Slavic community in the Pacific Northwest, and certainly I spoke to a lot of them in my run for Congress. About 8 years ago, I started speaking to Slavic churches about homeschooling and taking your kids out of the public school system. And what's interesting about what you said is I'm hearing echoes of what the Slavic community is saying. We came to America for freedom, and we're losing our kids. We're losing our kids, and they're losing them to a woke education system. They're losing them to an education system that is both anti-God and anti-freedom. And so we're kind of at the jumping off place right now.
We are. And we wanted to tell this story with the Pilgrims because this is where we started. This is where our country started. And it's important to go back to your roots. And one thing that we say at the end of this is every generation needs to make a choice.
Yeah.
And just because our founders were Christians doesn't mean that we're going to maintain that Christian nation and maintain our Christian
it doesn't get
identity.
passed on through osmosis.
Right.
We got to fight for it. I'm curious to know. So you guys have been. How long you've been making these radio dramas now?
So we started in 2013. 2010. So it's been about 13 years.
And you've been out to the Homeschool Resource Center.
We loved it. We were amazed.
Yes. And wait till you see what we're doing now.
What's happening?
Well, we're moving. For one thing, we're moving into a new building. We'll have a new recording studio and an auditorium. I'll have to show you when this is over.
Bigger than?
Yes. So you've been to the current center. It's about 20,000 square feet. The building we're moving into is 54,000 square feet. So
wow.
But it is the Lord. I'm telling you, Ian, from start to finish, God's been doing such an amazing thing.
So cool. That's so cool.
And I think that God's honoring the heart of parents who want to pull their kids out of this corrupt system, because it is corrupt. It's an anti-God system. There are only two kingdoms in this world, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. Jesus said, you're either for me or against me. And it's time to choose.
That's right.
It's time to choose. And I think what you're doing that's so important is you're giving another tool to parents to help get the principles of liberty and freedom and the principles of God's word into the hearts and minds of their kids. What are some of the other stories that you guys have been highlighting?
We told a story this last year. We just released a story called She Is Mine, and it's about Stephanie Fast. Have you heard of her?
No.
So Stephanie Fast was a Korean War baby. She was put on a train when she was 4 years old. Her mom said, your uncle will meet you when you get off the train.
Wow.
Her grandpa said she couldn't live in the village anymore because she was a Tugi, half white, half Korean. So when she got off the train, there was no uncle there. And she walked backwards.
What year is this?
This is in the 50s, I think. So
wow.
she walked backwards from the train track and spent 2 years wandering the Korean countryside, was rescued a couple times, and eventually adopted by some Christian missionaries. And she heads up an amazing ministry called Destiny, which advocates for abandoned children around the world. So that's one that we did this last year, and it's an amazing heart story that will make you cry, but it's a great ending.
What is the power of storytelling?
Oh man, Jesus taught through stories. And I'll tell you, stories get to the heart, right? And we can tell stories where they're preachy, and we can tell stories in a nuanced way. And so that's what we do with Brinkman's. We don't preach, but we tell stories and try to tell parables. And with radio, kids will listen to them over and over. I asked my daughter one time, how many times have you watched your favorite movie? And she said, handful. How many times have you listened to your favorite audio drama, which was Secret Garden by Focus on the Family? She said she listened to it 300 times.
What?
300 times. She said every night when I went to bed, I listened to that CD in my CD player.
Wow.
And that's when I realized kids will listen over and over. And so with audio, you can pack scripture, you can pack good principles, and a child will memorize the script.
Yes. Yeah, it's really true. I mean, ask anybody who has read Green Eggs and Ham 15 times to their kids. After a while, you don't need the words anymore because you've memorized it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What do you see is the future going forward? I mean, I'm imagining that, you're getting a lot more interest in what you're doing. A lot more people are pulling their kids out of school. We're recognizing, hey, man, the schools are broken. I told you a minute ago, I declare a state of emergency for our education system.
I agree.
And this is what you're doing really is part of a broader effort that's happening, I think, by the Christian community to give parents tools so that they can instruct their children in righteousness. How many stories have you guys released and what's the plan going forward?
We've done about 100, and we're working on season 10 right now.
Wow.
And we're actually directing season 10 to kids who are questioning their faith, because we're seeing the church bleed children right now.
Oh, I know it.
And so what can we say to the kids who are not captured yet, who are going to be going off maybe to the university? How can we prepare them? And so we're doing 6 episodes in the context of an RV race across the country between 2 Christian families. So,
wow.
With Todd Wilson.
Oh, man, that is awesome. If anybody was good for that, it would be Todd. Jay and Todd, my husband, and Todd love to exchange war stories from our RV years. And sadly, ours are, like Todd, our RV years are really, at least RVing with our families, really coming to an end.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, it's really true.
Todd Wilson has had me crying. I was laughing so hard with his RV story. So
yeah, he tell you one about the turkey?
He did.
Oh,
we're including that in the story. So yeah.
Well, there's nobody better for that than Todd Wilson. Before we leave, I want to give the opportunity to highlight just one other story that you really love and hope parents will check out.
In this last season too, we released a story called Peppy the Christmas Cat. And it's a story that happened to somebody on our board member. Their cat escaped in November, and the weather got bad and worse.
Yeah, you guys are in Wisconsin. You guys get serious snow up there.
That's right. We had a lot of snow. The power went out. It became bitter cold. And the kids prayed every day, and they began to have a crisis of faith. And the parents started to wonder, how long do we keep praying for Peppy? Because obviously Peppy is no longer. And my friend read in the Bible that it said David and Goliath taunted David for 40 days. And then he read that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And for some strange reason, it was impressed on his heart that Peppy would come back in 40 days. So he told his wife, and she said, that's a little, I don't know. We're not going to tell the kids.
Yeah. 40 days is a long time to be out in a snowstorm by yourself.
But just for kicks, they said, get the calendar out. When is 40 days? And so they got the calendar out and went from when Peppy escaped to 40 days forward, and it was Christmas Eve. Oh. And so Christmas Eve came and went, and almost went, and he went out in the garage to put the wrapping paper in the garage, and guess what was in the garage?
Peppy's in the garage.
Peppy came home on Christmas Eve. But it's a story about, is God mean when the cat runs away and doesn't answer our prayer? And also about parenting and how God is with us in our parenting.
Yeah. And it gives parents kind of some handles to hang on to. This is how I can shepherd my child through disappointment. It's just wonderful what you guys are doing. I hope you'll come out again to the Homeschool Resource Center and maybe record some episodes.
I would love to.
With the students there at some point.
Are they going to check me at the border coming into Washington?
No. Don't believe all that stuff. There's a lot of really good things happening in Washington State.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, you're talking to a diehard Washington girl here, so I'm gonna fight as long as I have breath in me for freedom there. And
thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, God calls us to it, doesn't he? Where can people find you guys online?
BrinkmanAdventures.com.
BrinkmanAdventures.com. I'll tell you what, Ian Bultman, just a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking the time with me today.
Thanks for having me, Heidi.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
You guys want more information on my guest today, head on over to HeidiSt.John.com and check out the show notes. I hope you will check out Brinkman Adventures. We've known these guys for a long time. I can't recommend them more highly enough. If you've got young children at home, it's going to be a real blessing to you. Check them out, and I will see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.